let's go to JR. JR, thanks for calling. You're on the Hoffman Show.
Hey guys, how y'all doing, man? I want to thank y'all for taking my call.
You got it.
Confused about one thing, and you guys might be able to help me out about the defense. If you only rushing 4 men all the time, then how are you getting beat so bad in coverage if you got 7 men in coverage? I was really confused about with the Bears thing where this guy, he never made the adjustment to put somebody over the top or have somebody somebody over the top and one underneath. And he could have taken this guy out of the game. So I don't understand the way of thinking of Del Rio. So maybe you guys can help me out with that one.
Yeah, I mean, I'm
confused.
Yeah, JR, I'm going to let you do the hang up and listen bit, but I appreciate your call. I appreciate your question. It's a really good one. I can explain to you the philosophy. I don't agree with it. So let's say that up front. I will tell you that I do not agree with the philosophy that I'm about to explain, but I do not think it is a totally flawed philosophy. The thought is that you can get home with 4, and thus you dedicate 7 in coverage. And they play kind of the same group of coverages. They mix it up. Sometimes it's 2 deep, open field or middle field open coverages. So your cover 2s, your cover 4s. Sometimes it's middle field close. So you're single high safety with either man on the outside or a cover 3. So you have the 2 outside corners. They do play some invert where like one of the corners might be a deep player and then one of the safeties is out. They play some cover 6, which is like quarter, half. So they do a lot of different stuff on the back end. Which sometimes I think can be a problem, but that's a different story. And the thought is that if you get that pressure with 4, then you have enough players to cover the space. The reason that it's not working for the Commanders right now is they're not getting home with 4 fast enough. So, they're getting a number of quarterback hits. They're getting some pressures. The defensive line's not playing bad, but teams know this. So what do? They say, we actually don't need to send 5 guys into routes. We're going to send 3 or 4, or maybe 5, but the last 2 are late after they chip. That's going to buy us enough time to exploit the holes in the zones, let our quarterback step up in the pocket and deliver a good ball, and that is what is happening. So because teams know we just need to chip or double team a couple of guys and we're set, the quarterbacks have enough time to find, and the receivers have enough time to find the space in the zones. And that is why I don't agree with that. I need the quarterback to feel rushed. And if that can happen 4 on 5 offensive linemen, what's wild is on the other side of the ball, Eric Bieniemy has said, we're going to maximize the receivers out in the patterns. And he has put Sam Howell behind more 5-man protections than any other quarterback in the league. It's part of the sack issue. I think that's becoming more talked about as some of that data becomes available and people are diving into it more. But they haven't used a ton of chip help. They haven't kept running backs and tight ends in. They want to, and it makes sense too philosophically because you don't want to lose 20% of your eligible receivers. There's only 5 of them, so that's 20% each one. And I just don't agree with that philosophy. You need to find ways that the coverage doesn't have to cover as long, which makes their job a lot easier. Whether that's pressure, simulated pressure, whatever, you gotta find ways to do it. And a lot of teams have just said, if John Allen beats us, John Allen beats us. And unfortunately, John hasn't looked like himself this year. So again, none of these guys are playing up front bad ball. They're just not playing the level of dominant ball that this scheme requires. I feel like JR had a part 2 to his question, Anthony, or did I answer that?
I think that was mainly the huge part of it.
Okay. Sorry, JR, if there was a part 2. I feel like there was, but I forgot it because that's how my brain works. Let's try Chris. Chris, thanks for calling. You're on the Hoffman Show.
Yeah. Hey, guys. I appreciate the call. Appreciate you taking my call.
You got it.
I think some of it has to do with just trusting that everyone is going to do their job. And like Ron was saying, people are trying to do too much. So if you think about our season so far, right, is that we've gotten ourselves into a big hole on a lot of the games, down by was it 10 or 14 with the Cardinals down by
Yeah, they've been behind
points
pretty
with
much
each
every
of the games. Yeah, so then it just put a lot of pressure on the defense early on to hold us in the games. And if you look at Philadelphia game, we were able to grab a good start. And I think it takes the pressure off everyone over.
Right, but it doesn't actually
trust.
It doesn't actually solve the problem. Like, the problem isn't that, like, people don't know what their jobs are on this defense, and there's mixed messaging. There is, we've got to create turnovers, but don't try to go make plays out of your gap. Hey, these guys can, these guys can't. Or, hey, like Emmanuel Forbes, we drafted you because you're a pick six machine. Why are you going for interceptions? Like, you have to have consistency, and you have to build. Oh, this was the other part of JR's question. I don't remember the exact phrasing, but I remember this thought flashed through my head, and I'm going to say it now. You have to build a defense around the pieces that you have. Like, you can have a scheme that says, like, obviously you start with a base structure. Like, are we a 4-3 or are we a 3-4? Okay, got that. Based off of that, how are we lining up our fronts? What kind of fronts are we using? Are we going to wide nine our ends? Are they going to play six technique where they're just off the outside shoulder of the tackle? Are we going to use this five-man front, what they call the Cinco package, where they have 2-3 techniques and a nose tackle, helmet to helmet with the center right over the ball, and instead of a one technique, which plays just off the shoulder of the center, like in between the center and the guard, that's a one technique. A three technique plays one gap over between the guard and the tackle. Instead of having two ends and then 1-1 and 1-3, it's like now we're going to have two ends that probably play a little wider, 2 3s, and a nose guard. Like, those are decisions you have to make. But how you deploy them and what those jobs are should be determined by the talent that you have. Like, you don't need a super special pass rush, like, hey, let's go get it, make some plays, 1 or 3 technique, like Daron Payne or John Allen, if you have Chase Young. Like, you want Chase to be the pass rusher and those guys to kind of make sure that nothing bad happens behind Chase. If you have an Emmanuel Forbes, you need a safety to be deployed behind them to make sure that if they do take a gamble, that there's a safety layer in place. But it's also on Emmanuel Forbes to understand when there is that guy back there and when there's not. And, like, this is why it is coaching. This is why it is players. There is room to criticize both because both have made mistakes. There are times and places where, hey, man, we're playing cover 2, we're playing cover 4, and based off the fact that it's 3rd and 7, we need you to just make sure you make the tackle on a 5-yard hitch, because then we're off the field. And there are times, like Kendall Fuller giving up the touchdown at the end of the game to DJ Moore, where it's, we need a turnover if we want a shot. And so, hey, man, shoot your gun. If you miss, you miss. And I'm fine with Kendall getting beat there. Like, in terms of the decision making. Like, you'd like the execution to be better, but at least he made a wise decision in the moment, because if that catch is made, the game is also over. It's just a difference in the score. So knowing when, based off of not only time, score, and situation, but I have someone who has my back or not, is an essential part of playing NFL football. I have a guy next to me that understands his job is to cover for me if I get beat. But I'm going to take the risk because if I guess right, I got a pick six or I got a pass breakup. And that's where I don't think the clicking is. And that's why play to play, do your job isn't so simple. Do your job requires knowing, based off of all of those factors and more, what your job is in the first place. And I do not think this is a unit right now that understands what its job is in the first place. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. The rant of the hour, if you will, is that the Commanders have put up a do your job sign, and I think it's very silly. Anthony, I don't know if you've double-checked the YouTube stream or you can read all the way from your thing over here. Have you noticed the graphic that's on the bottom of our screen right now for those watching on the YouTube stream?
I see it. I can't read it.
You can't read it?
No.
So it says, Commanders hang do your job sign in locker room. The sub-headline is, Craig very much does not like this.
Nice.
Yeah. That's what I decided to put on there. The Ace Law listener line at 301-230-0980. Let's go to Terrell. Terrell, thanks for calling. You are on the Hoffman Show.
Yo, thanks, bro, for taking my call.
You got it.
I'm gonna quickly mention, if you got to put up a sign, if your coaches can't motivate, if your guys aren't self-motivating, or if your captains, green dots, captain C's, whatever, dog, whatever sign you want to put on the jersey, if they can't motivate their colleagues, then you got bigger problems. So that's that. But what I want to link to do your job is, it's something I want to get your take. I was at the Chicago game, and yeah, I do admit I paid money to go see that.
You didn't know. You didn't know when you pay the money, man. It is what it is.
Yeah, you don't know. You don't know. But what I didn't see, honestly, were wide receivers getting open quickly. And, I love Terry, and I'm not trying to throw any smut on him. He's a great guy. But he had that stat of, like, the guy that gets, like, the most contested catches and stuff, which means he's not getting open. He'll get the ball, but he's not necessarily getting open. And I didn't see our great wide receivers getting open within that 1 second, 2 to 2.5 to maybe 3 second window that a quarterback needs. So, yeah, the O-line is not playing that great, but they're not horrible. Yes, right. Sam has some tendencies, but I also didn't see early winning. And I wanted to get your take on that to see if that could be part of them needing to do their job more, is getting open more. And I'll listen to what you think on that.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I'm going to let you do the hang up and listen bit. I just don't want you to, when I click off the phone, to be like, hey, I thought we were going to, you get it. It's a great point. And it's one that Logan and I have talked about a bit on Take Command, by the way. In about 7 minutes, Take Command diagnoses the defense, if you haven't heard of the pod yet. So stay tuned for that. But it's something that definitely is an issue. But it's an issue in multiple ways. One, the receivers could do better. And that is part of this, is all three guys, but I think especially Terry and Jahan, need to do a little bit better job of not just winning, but winning in timing. And that's part of what Terrell said, and I think it's a very astute point watching from the stands that, like, okay, cool, you got open, but if it's 3 seconds into the play, like, Sam's already dead. But sometimes you have to trust the space as the quarterback. And this is a big potential area for improvement for Howell, is there are certain plays where nobody's going to look open until you make the throw. And what can sometimes happen is if the throw doesn't get made, that guy never really bursts out of his cut. Or the ball goes somewhere else, or, all of a sudden the play breaks down. But if on time, on target, that back foot hits and the quarterback sees the space that he knows his receiver is going to get to, you just have to throw to the space and trust that when the ball gets there, the receiver will also arrive. And that there are times where Logan and I will sit down and watch some of the tape and watch some of the plays, and he'll go, look at this. And I'll be like, that's not open. He's like, in the NFL, that's open. You have to know that safety is not going to be an issue because he's watching here, and that space is where this play is designed, and you just have to throw it. You have to trust it. And so I do think, yes, the receivers can do better, and they can do better within the timing. But I think also Sam can trust the play designs a little bit more. And I think specific to Terry, I think you can just throw it to him sometimes. You just go, he doesn't look open now, but he's probably going to somehow catch it anyway, whether it is contested at the catch point or he'll separate late. So I think it's a great point when you come to the offense. All right, last call real quick. Let's get to Michael. Michael, thanks for holding on for us. You're on the Hoffman Show.
Hey, Craig, I appreciate you taking my call. First time, long-time fan of the Washington football team. I listen to you, and I think back about the times that I've played organized football, and you say that do your job. Well, you made a comment earlier about you should know your job and everybody else's job, so you're cohesive. That should be rudimentary.
Yeah.
What I end up seeing is that they don't necessarily. I come from a small school, played organized football, and we had to know everybody's job. So if you knew everybody's job, then you could not necessarily at the NFL level be interchangeable, but you just knew what their responsibilities were, and you could react and act to their responsibilities, and then depending on how the play developed. So I appreciate that comment that you made. It's a great awareness of
what's going on right now with the defense.
I appreciate that, Michael. Thank you. And I think that what you get when you have that understanding is, like, some mistakes are okay because there's safety nets there. Some mistakes are not okay because you're just dead. And if you're playing, solo on the side of a field as a deep defender and you take a risk for a pick and you don't get it, you give it up an explosive. Like, you just need to try to, make the tackle and limit the damage or get a PBU. You don't need to undercut the ball and have it go through your hands. Like, there's levels of risk you can take when you understand the bigger thing in which you exist. And, also, like, you start to understand playing with guys, the chemistry, and hopefully this is something that happens, and this is why the Defoe injury sucks so much. It's because maybe they were starting to get some chemistry and it just hadn't shown any results yet, but maybe that's wishful thinking considering what happened the other night. But, like, do you understand, hey, that's a guy that takes some risks. I gotta help out over here a little bit more. Or, hey, DJ Moore is killing us right now. Like, as a play caller, let's start bracketing him a little bit. Let's make those adjustments. And so those things I just don't think are happening right now. And I think part of it is there is, on the player's side, and this is not the player's fault necessarily, a lack of cohesive understanding of the bigger picture of what they're trying to accomplish defensively. And I don't know that the actual approach they're taking defensively is optimal against 2023 NFL offenses. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app, streaming live on YouTube at the Team 980.
Hey, this is DA, and you're listening to The Hoffman Show on the Team 980 and the Odyssey app.